It might be time for the Browns, but it's always Cavs season somewhere. Tony Camino there. I'm Andy Billman here. He wrote an excellent article about players overseas. For those of you who love depth in rosters, boy, you're going to love this article. And it's important because there are all these mystery picks at the end of the line, and they sometimes can reappear. Ask the Nuggets. They made a last second round pick, and boy, my gosh, we all saw them win a championship. So sometimes these are not just throwaway picks, Tony. This is the back end of the roster, but let's go overall of the Cavs. I think it'd be better to do that. The Cavs have never really hit on overseas picks except for Zydrunas Ilgauskas. That's been about it. I mean, they've had a couple moments, but they've not hit as much as other teams have overseas, to my viewpoint. Maybe I'm missing people, but Zydrunas is the only one that really comes to mind.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a changing landscape when it comes to it because the rest of the world has been getting so much better. What you're really starting to see is the phenoms for Victor Wembanyama, and even Giannis came out pretty young, and all these other different players. Josh Giddey was a top 10 pick. A lot of international players nowadays are just coming to the NBA as soon as they can. So scouting back in the days when Ricky Rubio was drafted and didn't come over to the NBA for a couple of years, and that was common. It's a very weird thing where we're shifting towards a lack of that, but to the point, the Cavs really, besides Z, don't have any like standout international players.
They really don't. I mean, Verajan, he was a good player, but does he stand out? And like you see these other clubs, and they're everywhere. I mean, the Spurs, the Mavericks come to mind right away. Those are clubs that have hit really well over the last 20, 25 years on players overseas from multiple countries. It's an area you hope the Cavs get better in, Tony, because in all sports, I mean, football is really the only one, but in baseball, boy, you got to be able to draft in other places around the world. You cannot just rely on just American baseball players. And the NBA is kind of getting similar. And yeah, again, I'll say it. It just doesn't feel like the Cavs are able to sometimes they don't capitalize on overseas. And it's not just recently. Again, like no one really comes to mind. And this is a league where there's a lot of examples of guys that come in and play well. I hope the Cavs can take advantage of that. The players that are overseas right now, the one that gets talked about is Travers. But even then, when I see him play, Tony, I don't know if I see an everyday NBA player. Tough to tell. It's still young, but I'm not sure if I see an everyday player right now in him.
I think he's got his flashes. He's got good size, and he
Yeah.
plays the game well. He plays winning basketball, but
Yeah.
on a roster, especially as talented as the Cavs is, I don't really see a spot for any of them that we currently have or Travers. I mean, he showed flashes, and he's also just signed an extension with a different team in Australia. So we would have to buy him out to get him over here. I don't think either party is that pressed to get him here. I think chances are he just stays in Australia for a while.
There's another guy who I've seen play a lot, actually, Diop. Diop is very raw. Nowhere close to being NBA ready. So it's still, for people who always wonder what's been going on this foreign draft picks, Tony did a great article and really broke it down. There's not a lot. You're not really seeing anybody that kind of shines. And hopefully, I don't want to overpoint this because the Cavs are still good and everything's fine. I hope this is an area down the road Tony they get better at.
Yeah, I just think that in the current landscape of the NBA, all the good international players are just entering the draft, and we're going
Right.
to have a top 10 pick to get them.
Right.
Because outside of Jokic, and even Jokic came over basically right away.
Correct.
All these other ones they're coming over right away. So it's not, we're kind of past that era. Guys are Europeans, international players in general, are coming over as soon as they get drafted. So we're not really in a position with draft picks, but
True.
our scouting needs to get better because we do see the Nikola Jokic's and players who get picked late first round, early second. So definitely would like to see better scouting of international just in general.
Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not expecting 3 or 4. But, I mean, again, one. I mean, I'm just looking for like one player. It's like homegrown. And every team right now, I kind of think off the top of my head, always has one. It feels like for most teams, Cavs don't have that right now. This would be one area where they could really focus in on. Real quickly to wrap up on the Cavs, they're getting closer to the opening of the gates. They usually open around mid to late September. There's been no real roster updates. Tony, have you had a chance to digest? Are you still feeling good as we get closer to the camp opening up for the Cavs here at the end of the summer here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last year, I know it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but last year was never the end all be all for this team. We didn't
Right.
get Donovan Mitchell to win 1 year and 2 years. That was just the beginning. So Mobley's going to get better. Garland's going to keep growing in his role. And Donovan, we saw what he can do last year. So I think we're a top three seed in the East and potential based on how good Mobley grows to be even more than that.
I feel good about the Cavs as well. I think, which is not for this video. I think a storyline again is that how they're going to be at the end of games, not the beginning, and the progression. If there is some of the Jared Allen Mobley a pair on the floor, or do they really get separated now? I think it'll be something that'll be talked about a lot, but that's for a different podcast. Check out Tony's own article on BelieveInTheLand.com. We'll be talking Cavs here very shortly, very, very soon. Tony there, I'm Andy Billman here. Thanks for watching. Go Cavs. Be here sooner than later.